All right, welcome back to our Tips for Tuesday. This week we're going to cover the front rack position. Okay, so looking at the board here, we're going to go over what the front rack should properly look like. Okay, and then also we're going to give you maybe 7 different mobility pieces as well to go through to help improve that front rack position. Okay, so we're going to actually trade stick. I'm going to take the stick here from Joe. Coach Jordan is going to go ahead and show us what the proper front rack position should look like. Okay, so if I'm going to come out here in front of her, right, she's going to get under the bar, okay, and here's what we're looking at. Okay, so we're looking at the wrist and forearm and elbow to all be in alignment, and you want to have external rotation in the shoulder going on here, so the shoulder or the elbows are pinched out. Okay, so if we see a pinching into the elbows, we'll see a rounding of the back and the shoulders, and that's not something we want to see. So we have the elbows coming out, okay, forearms, wrist, elbow, all in alignment. And then the bar is in contact or resting on the front rack position or the shelf of the shoulders. So there's clearly no space between the bar and the shoulders. Okay, that's key. All right, so she's going to go ahead and re-rack that in. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and trade it back. All right, so something that we saw yesterday when we were doing front squats is, and this is typical, we'll see especially people that are new to the front squat position, is if they've never done it before, A, it's a little uncomfortable because the bar is closer up against the neck, and 2, they lack the mobility maybe in the shoulder, the elbow, or the wrist, or a combination of. And we'll see things where they can't get the elbows up to where they're parallel to the ground, or we'll see the elbows come in, and you see what happens when my elbows come in. All right, I get a rounding here of the back. So we want to pull those elbows out and pull them up, and you can see how that takes care of my posture in that position right away. So when I'm going down into my squat position, I want to hold this posture and position. All right. Okay, so what are some mobility pieces that we could do to correct that? Some of these we've done in the past before in some of our videos. All right, but just to rehearse quickly some of these guys, we're going to start off with some T-spine extensions on the foam roller. So we're going to take our arms, and we're going to hug ourselves and try to grab our shoulder blades here. And you're trying to take all the slack out of the skin in the back, all right? And that exposes that T-spine area. So the middle of the back, hips are off the ground, and then from here I'm going to take a deep breath in, and as I let it out, I'm going to drop my hips, drop my shoulders, and go over the foam roller. Okay, so I'm going to do a bunch of these guys here. Okay, so mobs, and then also I'll do some, lift my hips up, and I'll do some left to rights, just to get some rotational piece in on my T-spine. Okay, just opening that area up. Okay, the next thing we'll look at doing is taking a lacrosse ball. And the one thing we want to work on is shoulder external rotation. So when you have a bar in the rack position, we'll see sometimes tight people that have tight shoulders, they're going to internally rotate and the shoulder's going to collapse forward. And you can see what happens to my back, right? So we want to externally rotate that shoulder so we can get that elbow in a good position right here. All right, and a lot of people have real tight external rotation. So one thing we could do for that is take a lacrosse ball, get on the ground, and put it here into those shoulder external rotators. And I'm going to rotate to that side that I'm on, right, so I get some more body weight into that lacrosse ball. All right, I'm going to have my elbow at about a 90-90 position, 90 degrees elbow and shoulder flexion. And I'm going to work into some internal rotation pieces and externally rotate. So I'm just going to work through some internal external rotation lobes. Right, and then I'm going to slide around. I'm going to hunt for those tight spots and work through that internal, external rotation and let it release with the lacrosse ball. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is get into the bands. So we're going to do a banded overhead distraction with an external rotation bias. Okay, so all that means is you're taking the band, putting it at your elbow, having your hand on the band in this position here. So I'm externally rotated, right? This will be internal rotation. I'm externally rotated. And I'm just coming into this position here. I'm going to take my opposite hand and grab my elbow and try to pull it into my head. All right, so this is the position that I want to look like right here. All right, so banded overhead distraction with an external rotation bias. All right, I'm going to be about 1 to 2 minutes in this position, both sides. The next one we're going to look at is banded super front rack. Okay, so we're going to have a band on the stanchion pole down below. Okay, we're going to come here, palm up. Again, I get in that staggered position with my feet. I'm trying to get my elbow as close to my head as I can. Right now I'm letting that band pull my arm back. Now one thing you don't want to see here is hyperextension of the back. You want to pull that rib cage in, but let the band pull the arm back. All right, and you can see how that is the position that I want to be in for the front rack. Okay, here and here. Okay. Next piece we want to look at is what's going on with the wrist and the forearm. Okay, a couple things we could do down here is some banded distractions for the elbow and the wrist. So the elbow would look like this. You're going to take the band, put it around your elbow, get some tension on there. I'm going to anchor my hand down with my opposite hand. All right, and then from there I'm going to let the band pull my elbow into extension. And again, make sure you take your elbow and your shoulder and you externally rotate. So you see what's going on here. I'm not smashed up here. I'm pulling that elbow into an externally rotated position. And then I'm just going to do some mobs front to back on that, okay, for about a minute. Okay, now for the wrist, I'm going to take another band, put it around the distal portion of my wrist, get a lot of tension on there. Again, anchor it down with my opposite hand, elbows locked out, externally rotated, and then keeping the heel of my wrist or my hand down the ground, I'm going to do some mobs in this position as well too. All right, so I'm working on forearm, okay, forearm flexibility and mobility. All right, so about a minute to 2 minutes on each wrist there. All right. Let's see, what else do we want to go through? The last one I want to touch on is going to be right over here in the box. Okay, so this one you're going to need a PVC pipe for and a band. You can get a mini band like this, or you can use a larger band and wrap it around your elbows. But you're going to take that band, wrap it just above the elbows, grab your PVC pipe, palms facing you. Have your elbows just hanging off of the box, and then you're going to bend them in 90-degree position. And then from here, you're going to ratchet your hands out as far as you can. All right, and then you're just taking your hips and sitting back and dropping your head down. And then that's what I'm working on, external rotation and flexion of my shoulders. So I'm just taking my hips again, sitting back into that position, dropping my head through my arms. All right, I'm just going to hold this position every once in a while, trying to kick my hands out a little further by twisting the PVC pipe. 1 to 2 minutes in this position as well too. So what you want to do is, before you do any of this mobility stuff, get into your front rack with the barbell, see what it feels like, looks like, okay? Then go through these mob pieces and do a retest. Go back to the bar and see if that helped. All right, so that is a front rack stuff that you can do to get to prep whenever you're doing overhead presses, front squats, and also clean progressions. All right, that's all we got for you today, folks. We'll see you next week.